Good evening, or good morning, afternoon, whatever, what time you're watching this. I decided to do another project before I let Mike and Paul go at it. This week, I have saved all my drivings, meaning Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, in total of 65 hours. All that is cooked down to one video. So it would look like, in some way, that I am going light speed, if you get my point. It's going to go very fast, but it's all 5 days in one. So let the show begin.
Okay, are you there, my brother?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay, Mike from around the world, folks. Mike, great to have you tonight once again. Wow, there's a lot going on. Lot going on.
Yeah, it is.
And
It is.
the Middle East, and everything happening. The volcano erupting in Iceland, the earthquake off the coast of Florida, 4.0. What does that mean? The atmospheric river destroying California. There's cancer in the kingdom with King Charles. It goes on and on and on. And then, of course, the Supreme Court and their ruling is coming. Whether Trump will remain eligible, I believe he will. But I want to start tonight, Mike. Just start with what's behind me. These are coffins. They found 33 of them in Thailand in a cave. They're 2,300 years old, and they were 13-foot long. And according to they're saying is they have 33 unique individuals. So they're going to test the DNA to try to understand their ancestors. I don't know if these are Nephilim giants. I don't know. They don't say. They just say they're unique. We wanted to get your take on it, what you may know about these 33 coffins in Thailand.
Thailand is full of surprises. Passpona has been for a long time, but I wouldn't doubt that they are um, extraordinary. Let's put it that way.
All right.
Extraordinary. They found other digs. There have been other digs in Thailand and things that have recently been uncovered through lidar, um, where they essentially removed the jungle from an overhead shot, right? And they can look at the details in the ground. It's quite extraordinary what the world is what they're uncovering with lidar. But they had other digs, and people buried who had no facial features. Like, for example,
What?
a skull with no nose, no eyes, no orifices for ears or any of that, just a mouth, right? Uh, they found an entire site like that.
Well, how did these?
And these were bones, right? These were
Yeah, there's
actual bones, skulls,
yeah.
with no eyeballs, no nose, no orifice for the nose, for the eyes, ears, sinus cavities, none of that. Cranial sutures, they were there, but they were odd, not quite
Yeah,
like the
not human.
some of the giant Nephilim skulls, but they were different. So digs like that are not uncommon.
So there's a
They're
lot
not.
more. So even though this might have made it in the news, you're saying there's more. There's more digs like this. There's more things that's being found out there. We're just not
Oh yeah.
privy to it.
There's a lot coming forward. Um, a lot of things will come forward that will just, it's going to turn everything upside down. It really will.
Wow. All right. So now that takes it to another level that we may not just be talk about giants. We could be talking about some type of different race, reptilians, maybe something else, something other kind of entity.
Well, you know what, Pascal, in Genesis 6, of course, the Nephilim that were also after the flood, it says they were before the flood and also after that. If you look at what the fallen angels corrupted animals and
Yeah.
humanity, right? So that means you had great deformities in animals in the animal kingdom. You had great deformities in people, whether by height, looks, mixture, lab experiments, essentially. And they were alive after the flood, right? Um, So it is not too strange that they would come across all these things. Plus, they have separated what they have. Most of these digs yield now some pretty unique things, like 40. Who has a 40-foot sandal? Right, I believe they pulled those
What?
out.
No,
What was that, about
no.
2016? I
You're
believe it was.
saying a sandal, a
A 40
foot,
foot a 40-foot sandal, right?
40-foot
A sandal that was
sandal.
40 feet long that evidently had been worn with the toe prints in it, right? Things like that,
That's not
right?
Bigfoot.
There's no explanation
That's not
for
Bigfoot.
that.
That's not
No, that's not
Sasquatch. That's
Bigfoot.
something else.
That's something else. That's something else. And when it comes to the bones that they find, for example, the fossils, right? Most people are accustomed to science, and fossils are found that are millions of years old, right? You don't find a fossil of a common day deer anywhere, right? But when Mount St. Helens blew, right, do you not know that the mud and the water pressed down on some of the animals, the plant life and everything else, and it fossilized everything in less than 5 years? So some of these fossils, Pastor Paul, are not as old as what you think.
Wow.
They're not as old as science yields. But 2-ton axes, a 400-pound fork, like a eating utensil, 400 pounds.
No.
What do you do? That was in Afghanistan, right? It was almost like a cutlery set dug up in Afghanistan.
Okay, you got to be talking about
Yeah.
something that these creatures about the size of mountains. I mean, walking around. Are these
I
the
don't know how big they
Watchers?
were. I
Yeah.
don't know how big they were, right? But the same utensils that we have, they obviously had, but they were much bigger. So something happened here. And like I said, it's going to be a lot of things brought forward this year, uncovered this year. One of the biggest problems is they have no placement for this information, right? It scares people to death. These
Well,
are
yeah.
undeniable things, right? If you saw an arrowhead that was the size of a human body, what would you think about that? What are you going to do with that?
I
And
don't.
what were they shooting with an arrow that big?
I don't know. I mean, it's this is when I mean I've struggled with something 13 to 15 foot in size. I've struggled with that, but I know it's true. We got too much proof, and we got scriptures everywhere that tells us that these things were huge. But now you're talking about something that's off the charts. Off the charts. I mean,
Yeah,
almost
well, they're
godlike, I mean, we're
yeah.
talking.
I just think that this world is got layers and layers. I believe that Christians could know the truth, but the problem is we're educated or indoctrinated by the world, which teaches us to be experts on what does not exist, right? And
Right,
let's go ahead and face it, fantastic stories are all over the place. You don't know which ones to believe,
right,
right? And
right.
so you can't go down too many rabbit holes. Your life will be tied up. But some sort of forthcoming individual group they'll begin to all over the world begin to provide evidence for some of these things. People have dinosaurs, for example, right?
Yep,
That's clear evidence,
yep.
in my opinion, of Nephilim. It's clear
Yeah,
evidence of
yeah.
Nephilim. And it's important for some reason that they continue to introduce the reptilian species to every human being on Earth. Every child knows about dinosaurs. Why? In every country, every child
Yes.
has to learn about dinosaurs.
But
Why? And
but they don't but they
those
don't learn
mysteries
about
turn up.
giant but they don't learn about giants. That
No, well,
you know.
you know what? By not knowing, some of these dinosaurs, by the way, the what people see in museums are not the actual bones. The actual bones of dinosaurs are irradiated, right? They're radioactive, and people can't really get near them. So they make replications of them, or they encapsulate those bones and things. They have made up a lot of creatures, right?
Wow.
That they scientifically deduced were real. The bones are real, um, but some of the bones are so large they can't even. There's no way they can use them, right?
Wow.
Um, but yeah, and why would a dinosaur have vocal cords?
Well, I mean, I don't know if they were talking.
Like a human being, just like a human being. Um, cavities in the skulls were a bit different, right? They do match some of the elongated skulls. Different features like that are far different than the animals that we have. And so, I mean, it's quite clear that something tampered with life on Earth, right? Something, and we know what that
Yeah,
was.
we know that. We know that. Let me ask you this question then. We'll move to another level here, another area. King Charles has come down with some type of cancer, went in for prostate procedure, and then cancer was found. I don't know if it's prostate cancer or maybe some other type of cancer, because but it's certainly cancer in the kingdom. Now, the Buckingham Palace has a hospital inside it, basically. Usually they don't go to hospitals. I mean, the hospital comes to them. So there's something significant maybe happening here. He has said he's not going to do any of his duties. He is basically turning that over to Prince William. Harry's flying home, trying to see if they need him. Do you what have you heard so far? Is there a significant problem here?
It's unusual.
It is unusual.
It's highly unusual. Well, for one, it's too public, right?
Right.
And that family, that kingship was in a bit of trouble as far as optics were concerned. This will elicit some sort of sympathy, right? It's almost like it's planned. And then, of course, the two sons come back. One begins to exercise authoritative powers, already.
Right.
So what are we seeing here? We're seeing something that's, the natural course of a family, or some orchestrated thing. It's very difficult to tell with this. I would lean towards a very real happening that they knew about for some time, that they are acting on, right? In their own interest. They're acting on it. A part of it could be to protect, because it's Pastor, it should be, the timing is a bit too close that stories are coming out, right?
Right.
A lot of rich people are turning on each other, right?
That's true.
So what they're doing is there are a lot of court cases. People are being dragged into these court cases, which makes their information public, which is going to be highly distasteful in the public's eye this year,
so
in 2024. And all of a sudden, he's been involved in some things.
Yeah, he has.
Right? He has.
You think, you made a comment when after Queen Elizabeth died that there's certain things can't be done except only under a king.
That's right.
And do you think that maybe, and that has certainly been established, and he was making his rounds, whether it be in the climate, or the World Economic Forum, or these different, he has a voice.
Yes.
But
yeah.
I feel like we might I sense a shift taking place. And the younger William Young family, of course, his wife has been ill. Of course, she just had surgery and was in the hospital 17 days. I hope she's okay now. But you feel a shift. I don't know. I feel a shift. This is a young prince who could be king and would have many years to establish the kingdom, and probably plays a role in the end days.
Well, directives are given, and if you take note, he's been a loyalist, right?
Yes, he has.
He's a loyalist, and he is not. He is a stickler for royal business. So if he has a directive, he'll not deviate. He's not going to go left or right, no matter what the price is or cost is. He's not going to deviate. And if it has to undo a nation, then so be it. And so that's the kind of guy.
Wow.
The guy that's coming forward. Now, this sickness would allow for an out, to install a brand new king there, who is full of life and full of years, like you just said. Yeah, this could be an opportune thing there, and it does. You can almost sense a shift happening. Something that's evidently timed, and something that the people are now gobbling up with sympathy. Right?
Yeah, and that could open up a door for the shift and to be a real easy transition, and King Charles can go away, basically, without being scarred, and maybe all the different rumors of his life not having to be brought out.
That's right.
We know Andrew already has his issues, and so I just want to get your take on it, because I felt like we were watching this shift here, and I think it affects other nations. You brought it up; it affects other nations.
Yes.
And while we're talking about other nations, let's just do that for a second. Israel, the pressure's on Bibi like never before. They all want him to stop. He says we're not going anywhere. We're going to finish this. We're almost there. A few more months and it's over. Hamas is done. Meanwhile, 31 rockets this evening came out of Hezbollah, out of southern Lebanon, hit the little town of Meran, Israel. Are we getting ready to see another front open up fully?
Well, Pastor, I'll tell you something. Just to bring some light on this subject, the U.S. Navy and Allied forces really had their hands busy with the Houthis. Imagine that.
Yeah, they have. That's unbelievable.
It's very tasking, and it's not like it used to be. It is not like it used to be. So these guys have access to, North Korean technology. They have access to, obviously, Russian/Iranian technology. And they have lots of it, stockpiled.
Yep.
They have already defied, or let's just say Iran acts in not so much a totalitarian position with the Houthis, but more of an advisory panel for the Houthis. And the Houthis continue to engage in their own operations, but it's becoming very tasking to the U.S. Navy. Israel, they want Bibi out of there. They want to. The world is calling for disarmament of Israel. Right? They want Israel to essentially, totally, and absolutely surrender. This is the word is echoing too much in too many different countries now, which is very dangerous for Bibi Netanyahu. It's very dangerous. It's extremely dangerous, right? So none of us should overlook that.
No,
that
you're
if
right.
anybody ever got the chance, they will take him out. Right?
You're right.
This is an active thing now, and it's very close to home. Hezbollah has been probing for a while now, and they have always had the capacity to sneak in some of the fast movers into Israel, right?
Yeah.
These demonstrations, these probes, every time they hit Israel, believe me, they go back and they get all the data. All this data is going to more than a few places. Iran is collating, putting this data together, Pastor, because when they do officially attack, it's going to be from a multinational force that will go into Israel, right? All at one time.
So you don't see it just being the Hezbollah, Hamas and now Hezbollah. You see a bunch of them: Iran, Syria, Iraq, Russia, everybody.
For example, Hamas has not quit. They haven't quit.
No, I know they haven't.
They're gathering intel, right? These guys probe. They gather intel. They share information. This is why some of their attacks have been so precise, right? They're not televising some of these precise attacks. They're not televising the cost of life involved. We have soldiers, Navy's soldiers that have died already on ships that are, they're not. That's not supposed to happen, right? So we have a casualty count building up. And this thing is broadening. It is worse than what they're televising, far worse. People are fatigued already. Commanders are every time they talk, commanders are saying this is serious. This is serious. This is getting worse. And which is why the Republican Party in the USA wants they need Biden to do something swiftly, right? Because they can see it getting out of control. It's spreading. It's getting bad. So we have a real situation here. And my opinion is, I do believe in history is going to be recorded that World War III has already begun. We're going to see the dates of 2023 for World War III, right?
Wow.
Because normally when wars start, not everybody is involved from the onset. right? It kind of, you have this, certain people involved like Israel uh, but then when the big military factions, they get involved, then everybody recognizes it, right? Right now we have a war that's not recognized
Right.
as a world war, but in fact, that's precisely what we're dealing with.
It
A
is.
world war.
China's
It is a
next.
multi-front war.
I mean,
Yes.
you're right. China, Taiwan. I mean, even in this bill that they didn't pass, but this bill that they were fighting over, a lot of money was going to Ukraine. A lot was going to go to Israel. A lot of it was going to go down to the southern border, but quite a bit of it was going to Thailand to protect themselves against an invasion from China. It's inevitable, isn't it? Is this the year, 2024? Is this the year China makes some kind of military move to try to squeeze Taiwan or start to try to get them to concede that they need to join? Is this the year?
Well, I believe that China's already begun. They've all but controlled what's actually operating with Taiwan, right? They understand the U.S. is involved, but they're controlling. They've kicked up patrols in the waters. They have certain guard positions, right?
Yeah.
No-go zones for everybody else. China is certainly squeezing, and nobody can push China's hand back. They're also testing us when we go in and attempt to intervene, attempt to probe them. They probe us back.
Yeah.
Even closer. We've had exchanges with China unofficially already, and so we have a lot of things are moving, a lot of mechanisms are now moving and colliding. So we have an issue, we have a situation. So your statement is probably so this year. I do believe we'll see an escalation. It's unfortunate, but we could see an escalation beyond the point that anybody would like.
It seems as if you're right, and it's the timing is setting up, no doubt about it. So we got to watch this. Speaking of Russia and Ukraine, Russia disqualified the guy who was the number one candidate. That was, their election for president is next month. Putin had already got written one of his challenger. He's sitting in prison for 9 years. He'd been poisoned twice. There was a new guy who's an anti-war candidate, and he was rising in the polls. Well, he just got disqualified today. They said that he's not qualified to even be on the ballot. It's funny that happened the same day that they were arguing at the Supreme Court whether Trump should be on the ballot. Your thoughts?
Well, in Russia, it's a repeat of what normally happens, right? Putin always gets rid of his opposing folks. He does. That's just the way he works. He's got a lot of blood on his hands. But this Biden issue, it should be obvious. Some things should be obvious to people today. It should be very obvious today. Number one, speaking about Biden, he's up there in age, right?
Yes.
And so it's very difficult to be at that age and hold on to things. And cognitive decline can happen within the span of about 8 months to anybody. Right, anybody at that age, it can happen within an 8-month span. I mean, a severe drop.
That's
right.
Yeah, okay.
That's right. And so nobody that age is off the list, right? So there should be real concerns. But as far as Colorado, make that move towards Trump, now that sets a very dangerous precedent.
Yeah.
Because here's what would happen. Suppose by, I don't know. Because it's a slim chance that they're going to have what they want to have. But suppose Colorado gets away with that and they remove him from the ballot. Then all of a sudden the red states are going to remove Biden from the ballot.
Yeah, they will.
Then other blue states are going to have the burden of being uniform with Colorado and remove Trump off a further ballot, which means states or the let's just say the judges of those states will have power so much so that they can force the outcome of elections. They can determine who can and cannot win an election. Nope, that's not going to happen. You see how sticky that is?
Yeah.
If Colorado gets away with this, right, other states will follow suit. one way or the other. And if that happens, then a state can dictate who can be president.
Yeah.
That can never be.
I
That can never be.
can't see
And
the
so
Supreme Court. I listened to that all that. What was it? Almost 3 hours. I listened to about an hour and a half of the argument that these Colorado attorneys were trying to do, and all 9 of the Supreme Court justices were pushing back. I mean,
of course, yes.
It's like, look, you can't have one state deciding who the president of the United States is going to be. And, so I think they were really overreaching. I think Colorado, Maine, and these other states, it's all going to, I would say the Supreme Court shut that down. But that's not the end of it. You have more trials coming to disqualify Trump. Do you think that that's going to end, or will they actually convict him of something?
They will attempt, they will try. But take note of something. Take note. It's the old trick to keep the pressure on in hopes to discourage the forward momentum of an individual. They've already tried to change public opinion through prosecution. That did not work. And it's a very clear, tactic there. It didn't work. And so they really should. They're going to continue to do this until they cannot. But what I see happening is you can, at first it looks like they're upholding the law, but then it's a bit too much. And when you go overboard and you're working by ego and pride, your plan's going to fail every single time. And so in this case, Trump could be elected president even as a convicted felon.
And that just might very well happen.
As president, as a convicted felon. In which case, if that happens, here's why they don't want that to happen, though. They're trying to stop it. If that ever happens, somebody will come along and pardon Trump from that status, right? They will. Right. They'll overturn it because he served as president.
Right.
You can't have that. And so they know it's a lost cause. And so what they're trying to do is find every single reason they can. If you notice, back when he was president, with all these people, they came out suing each other, right? I mean, all across the board, lots of people going to jail.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to happen again on a brand new level. And they're going to hope to pull people into it. They need some notable convictions of well-known people, right, to try another tactic. They will try it. So these other folks are going to simply be, they're parts in a machine. No matter how rich they are, somebody's pulling the strings behind the scene, and you're going to have some high-powered individuals. They're going to jail. Well, at least they'll say they're going to jail. Nobody's ever going to confirm that.
Right.
But because they're going to continue to try this. Now, but this is dangerous. We're in dangerous times, because look at what we actually face. If Trump and Biden, for some reason, are still on the ballot, right? People vote. And let's say that Trump wins, right? He wins. And I know that if he wins, they're going to do the exact same thing that was done to them. They're going to say, somebody cheated somewhere, this, that, and the other. It's going to put civilians up in arms. That's what's going to happen. People will defend the outcome for Trump, number one. Yep. Let's say Trump loses. Let's say he loses. And Biden wins. Now, even the Democrats understand that President Biden is going through a severe cognitive decline.
Big time. We all know.
And so if he wins, then what in the world are people thinking? So they're going to say, well, something is not right there. People will be up in arms at one another again. So in both those scenarios, you're going to have the civilian populace up in arms at each other, right? But there's one scenario nobody suspects.
What's that?
One scenario that can absolutely happen. If a medical crisis overcomes the president, now he's in his 80s, right?
It could happen.
So guess what? At any moment, they can say the president is having a medical crisis, whether he is or not. Guess what happens? A brand new candidate that nobody knows about comes out of the shadows right to the forefront. And it will be legal, right? To go up against whoever. I'm just telling you what I know. So that means that leaves Biden off the hook. His presidency
so are you saying,
is still saved and intact, but a brand new
new person.
That's right.
I mean, we hear things, and you're not talking Kamala Harris either. I mean,
No, no, no.
Okay, but she could end up being president here in this for a few months this year before it's all said and done. If this medical emergency or a medical declaration or something happens, or Article 25 or whatever. But we know that they're looking at California Governor Gavin Newsom as one candidate. We hear that Michelle Obama is another one they'd love to draft into this. So you're saying maybe there's someone else or another one or two, but you're saying somebody fresh, somebody brand new, no baggage, could be brought
That's
into
right.
the table and try to take Trump down using a brand new The
That's
Rock
right.
Johnson. I forgot his first name, but The Rock. They're trying to get him to run. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, that won't happen.
No.
But if the president has some sort of medical crisis, right?
Yep.
They never have to show his face again. They never have to report, or he never has to go through anything again. So effectively, he can still be president, right?
Right.
Or have presidential powers with his VP for the rest of that duration.
Right.
But you'll have a brand new guy who does not have to go through the crucible that they normally have to go through to be a candidate for president of the United States. And it could be anybody. What if one of these corporate individuals comes forward?
Okay.
Who, by the way, has already really established quite an empire outside of government. What if one of them steps forward, right?
Like a
somebody
Jeff
with a good track record,
okay.
right? Somebody who's serious, somebody who understands, quite a few things. That could just shake the waters up terribly.
Yeah.
It really could.
Yeah.
And it would also give people a focal point of something new, of something that has longevity. Because let's go ahead and face it. The one thing against President Trump is his age.
Yes.
Because 4 years from now, right? 8 years from now, hey, we're back in the same seat again, right? We're back in the same position again. And, let's go ahead and face it. As you age, you're not as sharp as what you were when you were younger. Doesn't matter who you are.
It don't matter who you are. That's right.
It just starts going away, and it will show, and they will pounce on that. And the people, even some of the Republicans out there, if they had a qualified younger candidate that was actually qualified, somebody who's not vindictive and who has the right, quality sets, this, that, and the other, a lot of people would float over to this new candidate. But it would have to be somebody who could do what Trump has done and more, right? Because Trump actually, he was a performer. So he did things, right? He was always active.
Right.
And that's what they're looking for. Somebody who can get things, somebody who will actually stand up and start working, not just sit there and point fingers, this stuff. So, yeah. But
you got some guys.
With the Biden issue.
Yeah. You've got some
that.
guys out there. You've got Jeff Bezos, from Amazon. You got Bill Gates from Microsoft. You got Elon Musk. You got some billionaire, multi billionaires. They all seem to have some baggage, but they are a force. And then how come Robert Kennedy Jr. The Democrats don't? I know he finally just went independent, but man, they don't even want to put him on television. They won't even talk to this guy. Is he just because he represents the old Kennedy dynasty and they just can't deal with that? I mean,
I think the Democrats, some of the representatives of the Democratic Party that people see on TV and everything else, they are vicious. Sometimes they are, and it's almost like they're not used to people speaking outside of a certain type of language. Right? They cut everybody off if you don't speak a certain type of language. And they don't, Robert Kennedy Jr., he keeps referring back to the secrets, certain secrets of America. They don't want to hear that.
They don't want to hear that. They don't want those out. No,
right?
No.
They don't. All they want to hear is somebody who can speak about, the stuff they have overcome.
Right.
That's what they want. And so, it's a tact. It's politics. That's what politics is.
Right.
And, but yeah, they don't.
Speaking of that, what do you think about Tucker Carlson? Okay, he was in Russia. It looks like he must have interviewed Vladimir Putin. I heard today he met with Edward Snowden. And at some point, Tucker's going to come out with these interviews. What do you think his reasoning is? Is he just wanting to get back at everyone, say, look, I can go where places you can't go, or what's his agenda here?
Well, he's not. He's a pretty smart guy.
Yeah,
He
he
is.
is. Yes, he is.
But he also made it, right?
Yeah,
He made it. He knows how to make it. He knows he's protecting his future, right?
right,
If you take money away, these guys wouldn't do what they do. Let's put
right.
it that way. Okay,
Yeah,
so
they
there
got to
we
have
are.
cash to
There you
operate the way they operate, and without Fox as his platform, he has to keep creating a platform,
Yeah.
and he's doing it.
Yes.
He's doing it with his ability to get a door
That's
open
right.
that maybe others can't open. So,
That's right.
yeah, I go along with that. Okay, now the stone steps. I mentioned that earlier. I really think that based on what God showed you, 4 years ago, or maybe it was even longer than that. And I thought about it today when I was looking at the Supreme Court building. But really, I'm thinking that the J6, the Jack Smith trial with Trump, that we may see the stone steps before 24 is over. And you're saying that won't. What are you saying that won't matter? He could still be president even with 5 felonies.
Well, he could, with a conviction, he can still
Yeah.
be president. But Pastor, they have people working, digging, looking, and unfortunately, let's go ahead and face this one thing. At some point, evil, right, is going to overcome the certain goods in these kingdoms. Dealing with the kingdoms, not with Christians directly. Now I'm talking about the will of good versus the will of evil, because we do have dark kingdoms rising. We do have that man of perdition, and the road is being paved for this guy to come forward, which means for a season, just for a season, God will allow that dark kingdom to rise. In order for that to happen, they're going to have their way. They're going to have to be able to say
Yeah.
peace and safety. They're going to have to be able to, institute their will over everybody else's. But so that means folks who represent some of the cries of the people, like Trump does, right? Despite of what anybody thinks, Trump does represent a certain portion of the
Yeah, he
populace
does.
who had no voice whatsoever, right? They
Yeah.
didn't. They had
Yeah.
no voice. And so nobody's perfect and he wasn't raised in politics or anything like that. He's a business guy.
Right.
And so, but he's dangerous to the institution because of his deal-making abilities, because of how he can maneuver people, right? How he can communicate or connect with people. They speak legal jargon. Nobody wants to hear that. It makes people
No,
sick.
they
You
don't.
turn on television, you start hearing them, pronounce
Yeah, we don't
everything in
want to hear it.
specific
It makes
ways,
them sick.
and you get sick to you like, I've heard all this before.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, literally, you've heard it all before.
Yeah.
But you hear President Trump, he's engaging,
Yeah.
and so you can actually hear him. But you start hearing these other people, right? They speak the same monotone stuff, and nobody,
Right.
people are
Legalese.
tired of that stuff. So he's a huge, huge threat. They don't want him to ever have be in that position again where he can maneuver people, because he'll get even more, and they're going to do everything they can to stop him.
Well, we just
They
seen
will.
him pull off one, and that was these bipartisan in the Senate. Some of the Rhino Republicans and the Democrats got together, and they were going to bring forth a bill that they thought was going to just fly right through, no problem. And then Trump said it's a bad deal. And so next thing you know, the House said, "Look, we don't want to touch this thing," and that has got the establishment in Washington furious. That they're probably thinking this guy is not even in the White House, and he's controlling
Right.
the House of
Right.
Representatives.
They don't like that.
No.
They don't like that at all. And it does. Listen, though, but if the people support him, they can't say anything.
No, they can't say a thing, and
No,
that's what they're
they
seeing.
can't. And so that's the war right there. You have people who want one thing, and government who interprets the will of the people. They can't get away with that anymore. When somebody stands up there and says, well, what the people really want, well, how do you know? You didn't call those people up. You didn't talk to them.
Right.
And people know they're seeing right through it. But President Trump, he can actually connect with people.
Amen.
It's not easy being involved in sales and things like that. You can't do that and not know people. You've got to know people
Right.
to engage in sales. And of course, Donald Trump is that individual.
He's
So
that guy.
they don't like him. They don't like him. He's a threat to that dark. Plus, let's go ahead and look at the truth. Do you want to look at the truth?
Sure.
When it comes to agendas, right? To abomination type agendas, then who owns those agendas?
Well,
It's not the conservatives.
no, it's not the
It's not.
conservatives.
It isn't. And so they continue to push that stuff. So you're looking at people who, and believe me, they support what people don't understand, Paul. The Super Bowl, for example, the Super Bowl.
Okay.
You have Taylor Swift.
Right.
They keep showing, right? So she's a favorite of what's established.
Right.
You think that could determine the outcome of the Super Bowl?
Absolutely.
You think it has determined the outcome of the Super Bowl?
It has definitely
Because
put Kansas City
it's
in.
going to be a lot of introduction of demonic things this Super Bowl directly to the people, and the people are not going to care. They're not. I'm telling you right now. What people are going to, what they're going to see? They're going to see a lot of almost like a underworld princess being friends with demons will be part of that theme.
Wow.
Or conjuring them up will be part of that theme. And people, they're not going to care. They're not.
Wow.
They will not care. And it's going to be happening right before their faces. They won't even care.
We've seen that in the Grammys. We see that sometimes, that kind of stuff, a lot of times in these big events. And so we'll have our eyes open. I'm also going to be watching the Super Bowl commercials, because a lot of stuff, predictive programming, goes on in there a lot of times. So
the richest guys in the world, right, are involved in entertainment. They pay for entertainment. And then, of course, because they have to make all that stuff before anybody makes a dime. They've paid people before anybody makes a dime. And if you look at the books on entertainment, that stuff costs trillions of dollars, not billions, trillions of dollars.
Unbelievable.
And so they're paying that, right? So you better believe they have craft over that whole thing, right, to cause people, because what they want the people to do is feel a specific way when they view entertainment, and for the most part, it works. And it is.
It is.
But even that should be obvious to everybody this time around. Things are going to become quite. Brazen.
We'll be watching. I'm going to take you to Iceland for a second, Mike, if you don't mind. Third time's a charm. This volcano erupts again. It's a 2-mile fissure.
Won't they listen?
What's going on, Mike?
They won't listen. Well, when they said, "Oh yeah, slow it down, it'll be over shortly." That's not what we said on your show,
right? Right, you didn't.
And so this thing has multiple chambers underneath it. Right? I'm telling you, that's the last place you want to erupt, because it really demonstrates.
It's not going to stop, is it? You don't see it stopping.
No, it really is about, I'd say about 7 or 8 Yellowstones stacked on top of each other.
Whoa, are you serious, Mike? You know how big that is to say that. But you're saying that whole Iceland and area is really nothing but one big, huge volcanic.
And you're literally looking at chambers stacked on top of each other, each the size of Yellowstone.
What? Are you serious, though? Really?
Yes. You're not going to find that in the data. You're not.
No.
But through observation and through the sheer crumbling power of this thing, people will see it. They'll see it.
Because
they'll say, it's when that land, if that continues to open up, basketball, that's directly relatable to the Atlantic tear, right?
Yeah, and we had an earthquake.
That's going to be the beginning of the end.
We had an earthquake today, just a little bit off the coast of Cape Canaveral here in Florida, 4.0. It's the largest earthquake in Florida in about 50 years, okay, just off the coast. And I thought of you. I thought of the Atlantic Ocean, and you talking about this huge, fault line that's running through the Atlantic, and then now you're bringing up Iceland blowing up. Is this tied to this? Is it tied to that?
We're going to have the Atlantic, that crack in the Atlantic grows every year, still spitting up nickel. Nickel is coming up from this thing. And Iceland, unfortunately, is all throughout the years, it has proven to be problematic at best. I want to know the worst case scenario, but those chambers underneath Iceland, Paul, in fact, on that entire line, if you were to go from north to south, is a very dangerous and volatile area. It will cause, if it continues to crack, it's going to cause a plate shift, a big plate shift, right? Now, a plate shift, forget about a big earthquake.
Okay.
Think about a bunch of 4 to 5 to 6.0 earthquakes non-stop for about 3 days.
No, I mean,
Yes.
okay, so
You're talking about a rumbling, some real problems here, right? Real rumbles. Because in people, they know about the big earthquakes. They know about the 8.0s and 9.0s. A lot of people, that's what they're looking for, but they have forgotten that if you have a small 4.5 earthquake for a much longer duration, you've essentially had 3 or 4 9.0 earthquakes, right? It will do much more damage. In Iceland's case, it's stacked, but it's very deep, right? Now, that Atlantic crack is very deep, and both of them obviously are coming from that same internal point. Both of them are. So both are tied to a telltale sign of a continental shift if they were to continue to crack like this. So the activity in Iceland is just not going to stop. It's not going to stop.
Wow.
It's going to continue to.
Well, right here behind me,
this
is the first time it erupted. This picture behind me is actually the first time. It is the second time was big. This one huge. It's bigger than this. And what you're saying is the potential, the kinetic energy that's building could be cataclysmic, could destroy part of northern Canada. Am I right by saying that?
Oh yeah, good. It does, because it is, I'll say it again, it's like 7 Yellowstones stacked on top of each other right below that, major landmass. Of course, obviously that's going to be disputed, right? But I'm telling you now, it'll start doing things that nobody expected. It will, because the more magma that flows up, this thing, there's not enough. What is that? The eruptions that it's had right now does not constitute the sheer amount of magma that's found in the chambers. It's kind of like New York City. Nobody thinks of a magma chamber when you think of New York City. They've got a giant magma chamber below New York City. Now, how long before that thing surfaces? Right?
That right there, and that would be. There's 20 million people over there. I mean, in that vicinity, maybe more than that.
It's not going to stop the magma. Magma continues to churn and eat away at the rock. It's coming up. The pressure is building. The solar winds are feeding this Earth energy every single second of every single day, and it's overcharged. All that energy, all the solar winds, everything that the Earth is capturing, coming into the poles, that's heat. It's generating heat, which causes magma, right, to expand, to become hotter, to eat away at more and more rock, right? So this cycle is not going to go backwards. It's not. The Earth is overcharged. Right now, it's estimated it would take 400 years for the Earth to cool back down from where it's been. 400 years of heating it would take to dissipate the energy it has collected in less than about, I believe they said 5 years. I believe the calculations are 5 years. So it is essentially taken in enough energy to last the Earth 400 years of internal heating. Right? Think of that.
So let's
think of that.
Okay, that's just off the chart. So now let's put this all in perspective. We have wars and rumors of wars right now that seem to be going off the charts, headed toward World War III. But meanwhile, we have earthquakes and volcanoes breaking records. We have asteroids. Matter of fact, tonight, we got an asteroid tonight. I didn't even bring it up. It's going to miss us by 0.6 lunar distance. In other words, about half the distance from the moon. This is happening almost every day now. We know that that Apophis is on its way, the god of chaos. We don't know how close. 18,000 miles. What if they're off? What if their calculations off a hair? I mean, it's bringing a lot of rocks with it. I think it's going to be a Revelation 8:8 prophecy. Wormwood prophecy could easily happen. So what I'm saying is, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Does man blow himself up or really create a radiation environment with nuclear detonations? Or does the earth itself melt with fervent heat, like it says in the book of 2 Peter chapter 3, from the sun with all of its, the sun, Planet X, we've been talking about it. What's the effects of Planet X? I think we're watching it. Volcanoes, frigid temperatures, hot summers, you can't breathe, straight line winds, this atmospheric river in California. I don't know. Where do you want to start? I mean, locusts. I mean, where do you start?
It's you know what, the war is coming. It is coming, and look at how it was when we were children, right?
Okay.
How blue the skies were, how
Yeah.
different everything was compared to right now. People just get used to it, Pastor Paul, right? They get used to it. California, the atmospheric rivers that are coming in, they have what? They have 5 more that are coming through.
No,
Five,
no,
yes.
no.
Yeah, they got 5 more.
Mike,
So,
these 2 was the worst. 13 inches of rain in 12 hours. Are you telling me there's 5 more of these type of
and I'll also say, here's something out. I'm going to tell you right now, it's a blessing. It's a blessing. They're going to look back on these days and say, I wish we would have kept every single drop.
Well, that's true.
They had 1 year's worth of, pretty much 1 year's worth of rain in one night, right? I know they said the accurate numbers are 3/4, but you may as well say they had a year's worth of rain in one night, right? So they have 5 more events coming that they can see. 5 more that they can see.
Are they going to be pretty soon here? I mean, are we going to see them
Yeah,
this spring?
they're forming now.
Okay.
They're coming now. They're going to be these atmospheric rivers back to back. But it's a blessing. Arizona is going to be hit with it too. Arizona is going to have water problems. But it's a blessing, Pastor, because after all this water, after all these atmospheric rivers, the water is going away. Even in the midst of a water event, we can't drink salt water.
No,
we
I
can't
know.
do that. And
is that that's that intrusion, saltwater intrusion? Is that what?
Well, yeah, we have that. That's been a constant problem.
We can drink salt water though. I mean, Israel's taking it, and they're taking the ocean water, and they're making.
Well, they have desalination plants.
Well, why don't we?
Right? We do, but they're not. Think of it this way: if salt water takes over, right? If it really takes over, it's going to cause damage to these coastal cities, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're right.
So a desalination plant, there's certain mechanisms you can't have, fully saturated. Plus, and also, salt water kills vegetation.
Yeah, you're right. Yes, you're right.
So we're going to have to face all that. It's happening. And the Mississippi River, right? This year, take a good look at it, right? Take a good look this year. That's all I can say. Take a real good look. Take pictures. Do what you got to do.
Because it's going to dry up.
Because, things are changing rapidly.
Well, earthquake, or it's going to dry up, or,
We're not going to have it. And you know what? We're out of time. We're out of time. We're a bit too laxed. We're out of time. There are people right now, literally, they cannot sleep, Pastor Paul, because they don't know what the next move should be.
That's true. That's true.
But they're trying to
stop or
stave off.
Are there scientists that can't sleep?
They're trying to stave off. They're trying to stave off or come up with some solution. Here's the issue, though. They know that things are happening rapidly. Every time they look in one direction, it comes from behind them. Every time they go behind them, it comes from the left or to the right. So many things are starting to happen all at one time. They cannot keep track, and they certainly can't help to avoid it. The Army Corps of Engineers are overtasked with the Mississippi, with the East Coast, and now Washington State, right? They're overtasked with that, trying to prop up the coastal waterways. They're overtasked. The U.S., the east coast of the U.S., the entire east coast is being propped up right now, right? The Army Corps of Engineers is highly active in that. It's just not working out. It's been a fight for many years. It's not working out.
Mike, we also talk a little bit here of the Earth wobbling, the core of the Earth not spinning, the binary system, Planet X, or the binary system that's affecting our sun. These things are not slowing down, are they?
Mm-mm.
And
No,
has the core of the
no, they're
Earth,
not.
has it stopped? Did it?
No,
Okay.
it's still going. It's
Okay.
still going, but we're just having some strange effects, Pastor Paul, with essentially overcharging the Earth. Right, the magnetosphere, for example,
Yeah.
is what 10 or 11 Earths out. So if you take 10 or 11 Earths on the bow shock, looking at the bow shock, the magnetosphere is about 10 or 11 Earths out. It's
That's
pretty
way
big, and
too
then the
far.
back is pretty big.
Isn't that pretty far?
Well, that's how far the magnetosphere goes. That's natural. That's how far it goes, and it's being compressed on the front side,
Yeah.
facing the sun. But it normally is about 10 or 11 out.
So is
And
that
normally the TeV, right,
yeah?
the energy that's being found in that area is constant. That energy has doubled in the last 5 years. So the Earth has taken on a lot more power. It will cause magnetosphere to fail or shift in a way, right? The bow shock is not going to maintain. It's just not going to maintain. It's a miracle that we have that bow shock today.
Radiation's going to keep building, then, isn't it?
Yeah,
with
inside
all
the planet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're going to have dormant volcanoes wake up like the big one, Tamaulipas, and other ones. I'll have to continue to mention that because that's going to be one of the number one killers of this planet.
You're very good at bringing things up and then coming back, bring again, because when you know something is going to take place, and then it might be 3, 4, 5 years later, the very thing you brought up happens. A lot of people don't have the patience to step back and wait and see what's developing. Like, for instance, I know the dreams you had about the stone steps and the coffin. I think the stone steps were really at the brink of it here before the year is over. I think you're going to see Trump being brought down. He's going to be indicted by something. I promise you he's going to get some type of conviction. I don't know if that keeps him out of the White House or not, but I'm going to say this. He will get convicted of something. That's part of the plan. It's partly why Nikki Haley's hanging around, just in case. She's trying to be there to catch him when he falls, I guess, and take his spot. But besides that, the coffin is this is the. What's your thoughts on that? Because that's a significant event.
This of all of them, I really don't want to see the stone steps because of what comes after it, because of what I saw the people do.
Yeah, what did you see? Remind us again.
Well, right during the stone steps, people were implacable. You could not make peace with people during that time. They were extreme,
inconsolable,
either for or against us. Right? They couldn't. And at that same time, evidently, missiles started coming into the USA during that time from the air. Right?
From Russia? So who's sending those in here? China, Russia?
I think that everybody was trying to send them. That's what I believe. I do. Listen, which means at the time of when we're so turned inwardly, right? We have a lot of enemies. The USA has a lot of enemies. They're going to take advantage the first chance they get. There are admirals who cannot sleep because of that. They know that, right? There are people they're generals who cannot sleep because of China, because they know the power of China, and they know how China probes, and they know what we're facing. They know what happens if we're ever distracted. We're going to be hit from all sides if we're ever distracted, right? Because we have essentially commanded the world. And we have essentially done that, commanded the world for a long time. But now it's like we're losing our responsible position, right? You take the police out of a city, you're going to have chaos in that city. And that's essentially what's happening. It's somehow we're being disarmed. Somehow we've lost our reputation. Somehow, right? There's no respect for the military of the USA anymore. Somehow this has happened, that the Houthis would attack a U.S. naval battleship, right? Somehow things have
That's
changed
crazy.
drastically.
And they're doing it boldly,
Yes, they are.
as if they've
Yes, they are.
gotten new technology, or they've been given at least better
Yes, they are.
sophisticated equipment. And we still seem like our hands are tied behind our back. Am I wrong by saying that? But
It is. Many of them said some of the tactics the Houthis have used were not expected by us. We did not expect the Houthis to have those
and
tactics.
to be this strong.
We did not expect Hezbollah to be able to penetrate things they have penetrated. We did not expect Iran to be so crafty as far as technology is concerned, right? So we're hitting these walls where we did not expect our enemies to be as mature and as advanced and as lethal as they are, which means we underestimated everything.
Our
That's
arrogance.
what it means.
It's arrogancy on our
That's
part.
what it means. We sat like we sat like kings for too long until we begin to complain. You know, it's the old adage: if somebody has freedom too long and they're too blessed, why do we start complaining? Israel did it. All of us have examples in our lives, and we do the same thing. We start complaining about everything, right? Until the person who loses everything and they get the smallest thing, they're so thankful. And it's the adage of the restaurant, Pascal. You get a hungry guy in a restaurant, you can serve him anything.
He'll eat it.
He's going to be
happy.
very thankful.
Right.
But you get somebody who's full going into a restaurant, you serve them something, they're going to send it back 20 times. They're going to complain about everything. Why? Because they're not hungry.
Right.
When you're hungry, you're thankful for the food you get.
Sure.
When you're full, you complain about the food you get. And America has been full for a long time, right?
Yep.
The only way we can ever get our position back is be hungry. We're going to have to be made hungry for a little season so that we can be thankful once again, so we can be put back in our position.
I think that's coming. I think that by our own demise, by our own corruption, by our own spoiledness, and our own, we have turned from God. We got so many people that are in seats of authority that are committing abominations or promoting abominations, and I really mean this, to the point that it's stench in the nostrils of God. And I don't know how much longer we think we can actually just get away with this and not have the judgment of God. At some point,
it's coming.
It's coming. It's got to be. You can't.
It's
God's
coming.
not mocked. Whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. And America is sowing seeds of disgust, seeds of disrespect toward their Heavenly Father, toward the Creator, and you can't get away with that forever. We're not the only nation. We got a lot of good people in this country, and maybe that and the fact we stand with Israel and some of those things is the only thing holding back the judgment of God. But at some point, we got to either repent or perish. I mean, at some point, am I right?
Yeah, and it's true. We've got to get it. We've turned. God has His word, right?
Yep.
It's the word. I know. I seek God. I want to know what God wants. That's what I want.
Right.
I want His word. But now in this day and age, Pastor, it's too many things going out with the individual's philosophy, individual's idea, the individual's this, the individual's that, and so they've just totally kicked God's word out to the curbs. They don't want to hear God's word. They want to hear their own words, and but the Lord has correction for that. For the righteous sake, I believe He will correct America. Nobody's going to like it.
But at least He'll do it. I mean, that's better than being a nation. The Bible says a nation that forgets God will be turned into hell. The Bible says that when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn.
That's right.
I mean, these are the reality here, that we thank God that we've got people right here on this broadcast that love the Lord. That thank God there are Christians throughout this nation who are still praying and believing and standing on the Word, and God sees that and He honors that. But at the same time, we got to have some repentance. We need revival. We really do. And it's not just only us. Take a look at Europe. Look at the godlessness. Look what's going on around the world. Jesus has got to be coming back soon, Mike. He's coming back soon.
Well, I tell you what, all these things we're about to see, the hostilities, the spiritual manifestations, is going to be needful. If we didn't need it, God would not permit it. And so, but we do need it.
Amen.
And so people ought to get ready for it. Things like Planet X, they can call it what they want to call it. They cannot believe, it doesn't matter.
Right.
They're still going to have the effects of it.
Right.
They're going to have the effects. They're going to see the change of it. And when people when they definitively see these physical changes take place, it's going to be, I got to remind people, we walk by faith, not by proof. But when you start seeing things, when there's no doubt that the spiritual realm is real, you no longer have to, believe that by faith. That means that window of grace is closing.
Yes.
That means we're at the end of something. And so I hope that people understand that the worse things get, right, the more things will have been proven, and the less grace that we're going to start to encounter. There will come a time where there'll be no more. There'll be no more forgiveness. Wherever a person is, that's where they're going to be. That's where they're going to be. And we know that's that day of God's wrath when it pours out. Those people who endure God's wrath we're stuck. And so, but those times could come quicker than we anticipate.
Amen. That's why we want to be on the winning side, folks. And the only way to be on the winning side is be in the will of God by accepting his son, Jesus Christ, and serving him and living for the Lord and doing the right things. Mike, what we're going to talk about next week? What is there something brewing? Is there something on the horizon? We better be watching, be awake.
I don't know. Besides that earthquake on the, well, let's just say I'm expecting something on the 10th to affect the earth. Besides that, I believe we'll have every subject to talk about. People are like Pastor Paul. We're going to have a magnetic anomaly, right?
Okay.
Now, every time we have a magnetic anomaly, people lose their tempers. They lose their tempers. So expect something along those lines to take place with someone, where people finally blow their top, go over the edge, do something of that nature.
Right.
Yeah, I expect that. I really
around
do expect
the
that.
10th of February, we might have a magnetic
Earth issue. It'll be an earth issue first.
Yeah.
It will ultimately turn into some type of aggression issue with both people and humans and animals.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Mike, thanks a lot tonight. I appreciate you taking the time. I mean, we touched a lot of subjects.
We did.
But I tell you what.
And don't laugh at Joe.
I'm not laughing at Joe. I'm not. Hey,
he did say red and green states. Cognitive decline is a serious thing.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm very careful.
And
about
he's
this.
well, it's almost something you can discern. It's almost something we can discern that his time is.
He's frustrated. I watched his press conference tonight. He was very angry. He doesn't like his own side turning on him. He doesn't. Nobody would. Nobody would want to hear that. His politics is awful as far as I'm concerned, but he's still the man in office, and he is a human being who is struggling with a mental decline, and we should not make light of that because our day is coming.
If we see a heavyset guy with the ears, we're in trouble. That's all I'm saying.
A heavyset guy with the ears.
Out. That's right.
Jerry Nadler. I don't know. I'll start looking around. All right, Mike. Appreciate you coming on tonight and being with us.
God bless you, Pastor Paul.
God bless.
It's always an honor.
Thank you. The honor's mine. Believe me. Bless you so much. God bless.
God bless.